This is Captain's Log with your host, Captain Mark Gray. Welcome aboard.
My Seatails guest today is Mr. Tony Clinch. Welcome aboard, sir.
Mark, welcome to you.
I understand that you have a brief boating history that you could tell us about. I know you have several years in boating, but could you give us a brief history?
Basically, I was in power for years, and then for the last 15 years, cruising the islands here, we went to sail. And just recently, we went back to power. So that really, in a nutshell, is what it amounts to.
And this is your boat now, and what kind of boat is this?
This is a Hatteras, sports fisher, 37 feet, and designed really to get out to the fishing grounds and then to get back in the same day.
Right. I understand you have a Seatail for us. That's a true story with a safety message.
Yeah.
Could you tell us that?
Mark, in the spring of '86, I had a sailboat, and a young friend of mine and myself were coming back down from Santa Barbara. And the conditions were very calm in the morning, and we didn't have any power, by the way. And progressively during the day, they started to worsen. About 4 o'clock in the afternoon, off of Rincon, in conditions that basically they were not threatening conditions, but they were challenging. I went midships to lower the mainsail. One of the reasons is I really don't believe in reefing the mainsail, but I wanted to lower it and get it out of the way.
For our non-boating friends, could you explain midships and reefing briefly?
Midships is where the mast is located on the boat, and the halyards that control the mainsail are at that point in the vessel. And I went forward, I lowered the mainsail.
And reefing would be the little points halfway down the sail where you can take it halfway down and tie it off. So you don't have as much sail up.
That's
for
correct.
Heavy winds.
Yeah. But anyway, I've never been one for reefing at all, and these conditions certainly didn't warrant reefing. They warranted getting rid of the mainsail. When the mainsail came down, I was furling it, and we had pulled the sheet tight, and I was lying on the boom, braced against the cabin top, and what happened, the gooseneck slipped another 8 inches or so. With that, the boat slalomed off a wave, and the boom went out over the ocean, and I was caught on the boom, and the sail unfurled, and I was dropped into the water. It was amazing to me that I was dropped into the water that fast. I really couldn't believe it. Fortunately, I did have a harness on, and I was tied to the jack line. Jack lines are the lines that you strap around a sailboat so that you can walk up without taking your harness on and putting it off at various intervals. I broke the stanchion, and I almost broke my shoulder with the weight of the water and the weight of the boat. What was amazing was that my legs were caught in the flow of the water, which was sucking them down. When the boat lurched back towards the port, my legs came free and I was able to vault back on the boat. Ironically, I almost vaulted over the boat again because I was running with such adrenaline. I came back and I got back on board. Thank God the helmsman hadn't been able to see me with the sail and with the dodger. I broke the dodger with the weight of my body and did considerable damage. I was quite surprised. The main factor was that I was harnessed, and that was a life-saving. I was not in a life jacket, and I should have been. I should have been when the conditions had gotten to that point. We continued home, back into Channel Island Harbor, and on the way, because we cut into the beach too soon, we actually arrived too close to shore too soon, down around the Edison plant that's off the Mandalay Beach.
The electric plant.
The electric plant. What happened then was we had to cut back out to sea to get some ground room because we were coming in too close to the shore. At that point, we were at a danger of being rolled in terms of being hit by a beam sea. We had lost the advantage of being further out and coming in at a quartering sea. On one occasion, we took a wave full on the beam, and it flooded the cockpit.
That's right over the side of the boat.
It came right in over the side. Actually, not of the boat itself, but of the cockpit. The one interesting thing that I discovered when that occurred, I had already put in the companionway slats, or the washboards, if you would. The cockpit filled up to the brim, and I mean it really did. It filled up completely. Fortunately, when your cockpit fills, and you do have that reserve buoyancy underneath the the cockpit with the airspace of the engine and the lazarettes, you keep sufficient buoyancy that your vessel won't go down. It really doesn't matter if you take a second wave at that point or not, because so much water is that. It's just so much water. It drained. It probably only took 3 minutes to drain, but it honestly felt like it would never drain out of there. Finally it drained, and that was that. The conditions that prevail out here are truly very seldom widow-making conditions. In fact, in 15 years of sailing the islands, we've had 3 periods when we've had bad storms. On one occasion, which were the winds of November, we had enormous winds come through in November 76 on Thanksgiving. We had an enormous toll in boat damage, but we never lost a life. Now that really was attributable to the Coast Guard. What's important about that is for people to realize that the conditions that really cost lives or cause accidents are normally challenging conditions. They're not horrendous conditions, because most often people aren't out in horrendous conditions. If you take your challenging conditions, if you go to life jackets, if you go to harnesses, if you secure your cabin and secure everything on the vessel, when conditions are beginning to worsen, you honestly will never have a problem with the sea. If you don't, you're going to have an enormous problem.
So it all goes back to having the proper equipment, using it when the conditions weren't that. And
Absolutely.
people can fall overboard in a pretty calm day.
You'll never
It
get
could
them back
happen.
once they do. You just will
And-
never get them back. I mean,
Yeah.
you can hit them on the head and kill them, bringing your boat up to try to retrieve them. So the best thing is harness them onto the boat, put on their life jackets, and have available a knife, incidentally. Should you have a need to get rid of the harness so you can slit the string or the line that's attaching it, because you need that accessibility to being able to free yourself from the boat. However,
So you should have a little jackknife, or I know in the military we use switchblades.
actually a straight
That
knife
works.
is probably
Yeah.
the best. If you're trying to get hold of a switchblade and open it up at that
well,
moment.
we use it because you can do it with one hand. As you said, you injured your shoulder, you know,
Yeah.
and you could open that with one hand, but they're hard to come by. But that's a very important thing, you know, and it's a good sea tale, a good safety story. And on that note, I'm going to have to say that we'll be back with another story. And I did want to ask you. Appreciate you being here. This has been Sea Tales, true stories that may save you some heartache or perhaps even your life. And watch Captain's Log.
Thank you.